Hi and welcome, my name is Jericho, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a VSCO style look without a VSCO style preset. Today we're going to be taking this image from this to that. Hope you enjoy. Alright, let's get right into it. So we are going to start by doing some basic corrections. Add a little contrast. I'm going to tone down these highlights because they're very extreme. Add a little bit of shadows, maybe crunch the blacks just a little bit, and a tiny bit of clarity. I'm talking like 5 or something like that. And then we might adjust those later depending on how the adjustment goes. But into the VSCO part of the thing, which is basically they're emulating film effects. So by trying to do a VSCO preset, you're basically trying to emulate film, which has like raised shadows, grain, kind of an old retro vibe. And that mainly happens in this area over here, the tone curve. So how you get that film raised shadow look is actually by making this basic contrast curve like this, and see it's added quite a bit of contrast in the image already. But then we're going to pull up the dark shadows and the blacks, and we're actually going to pull down a little bit of the highlights and the whites. That way they kind of have like it's almost an overexposed look, but it kind of fits with the retro feel. At least that's how I like to do it. That's kind of your own preference. But now we can look at the shadows, like over here. And you turn it off, you can see more, you turn it on. It's more of a gray, less of a black. And then here's a little bit more complicated when we get into the tone curve into the individual colors. Basically, you're adding contrast into the individual colors when we do like a basic S tone curve. But we want, I'll kind of show you what this does when you bring it up. You're adding reds into the shadows. We don't necessarily want that because we already have a lot of red with this flare over here. So just a basic curve. And then we will do another one for the green. A lot more simple though, or sorry, a lot less extreme as a curve. And then we're gonna bring some into the shadows because we want some contrast with that red. We're gonna do the same for the blue. Kind of bring it up until you have like a blue-green shadow, just to contrast that red. At least that's what I would do. But that's how you get the kind of cooler looks in the shadows with like a raised shadow and stuff. Let's see. We're about done with the tone curve. We might come back and adjust later depending on the rest of the edit. So in the hue, saturation, and luminance panel is actually where a lot of work gets done as well. So we're gonna start by taking the reds down just a little bit in luminance and in saturation to try to get back some of this face. And we're also gonna kind of skew the hue a little bit more into a orange red. That's just my personal preference on this image. But this is where you get a lot of the interesting color profiles that the VSCO presets can give you, is just by changing hues, saturations, and luminance by color, by individual color. Alright, that looks pretty good with hue, saturation, and luminance. As you can see, it's doing a lot for the image. It's really revealing her face and giving us a little bit of contrast. Real quick, just because it's annoying me, I'm gonna take this water spot off of her shirt. There we go. Super easy. Alright, split toning. So split toning is something that's really easy to overdo, especially when you're trying to go for a film look. And some people just avoid it altogether because they want to do all of it in the tone curve. But hey, the tone curve's hard, and sometimes it's easier just to add a little bit of a split tone. So I'm gonna do that with the shadows right now, trying to add some of that blue back. Let's go even a little bit more blue. See, you can pretty easily overdo it without thinking about it. So you always want to do it and then turn it off, check to see if you like the actual addition, and just keep doing that and make sure you're good with it. All right, and we're gonna add a little bit of yellow to the highlights as well. All right, now for sharpening and detail. I like to add a lot of sharpening. I think I'm adding too much personally, but it's just the style I like. I like to see every single thread of hair and stuff like that. So we're gonna sharpen it to about 40, maybe a little bit less. I should pull it down to like 35. This particular image doesn't need any noise reduction, but if you are shooting in low light, remember to use noise reduction. It is very effective, and you can get a lot of noise out of there without losing too much detail. And now we're coming down to grain, which is actually a really important part of getting a old retro VSCO type look. Some people aren't a fan of grain, but I actually like it a lot. I think it holds an image together and makes it look kind of cohesive, and I just like the old style. As far as grain settings, I play around with it a lot. I like all types of grain for different types of photos. Yeah, you just want to play around with it till you get what you like. All right, I think I'm gonna add a little bit more. Let's see. That looks about good. It's giving us some texture in this area. And that's important because we pulled up the blacks. So when it's kind of, here, I'll turn it off. When it's kind of just smooth like this, it makes the image look a little bit weird. You might be going for that, and that might work for your image. But in my experience, you want to keep a texture throughout the picture to make it feel cohesive. That's about it for the basic VSCO look. But I'm gonna finish this image real quick. All right, so there you go. Here's a before and after. The only thing I did after I cut was a radial filter and a graduated filter, basically just to add some blue greens in this area. Yeah, but that's it. That's about the image. Hopefully you might not have to buy a super expensive VSCO filter now.